Hello students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator. In this video, we are going to discuss about one novelist and her name is Shashi Deshpande. So this is Shashi Deshpande. We're going to discuss about few works written by her. So she is an Indian English short story writer as well as the novelist as well. So the Indian English short story has been enriched by various talented women and various talented women writers. So the contribution of Shashi Deshpande is outstanding when it comes to the short story. She is one of the few writers who did exceptionally good and equally good in both the forms, in the novel writing as well as in the short story writing as well. She received Sahitya Academy Award in 1991 for her novel That Long Silence, and that was written and it was published in 1988. Another novel that was very important is Roots and Shadows, that was published in 1983, and it was also given many awards like the Tirumati Rangmal Award. Right? Let us move forward. So Shashi Deshpande was born in 1938 in the Dharwad district, Karnataka, that is in your South India. After her marriage, she completed the course of journalism from the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, that is in Mumbai, and took up a job of journalism in a magazine called as The Onlooker. She also published some of her short stories in the magazine Femina and Eve's Weekly. So these are the two magazines in which she was publishing her short stories. She has been contributing a lot for the short stories and has written some essays as well. So her contribution also includes 5 short story collections, 1 screenplay which is called as Drishti, and some collection of essays. So Drishti, a screenplay, came out in 1990. Shashi Deshpande is a writer who is considered as a representative of the women of our country. Her novels are mostly centered around the women characters and women protagonists. So her novels can easily be termed as feminist novels because almost all of them are based on the problems existing in the lives of women and how they respond to these different conditions. Her protagonists are always female and she depicts the contemporary problems and the dilemmas around which their life revolves. She shows the patriarchal norms and the values that confine the life of a woman, and they take away their own autonomy and their own freedom. In her essay and in her book, Writing from the Margin and Other Essays, this is a book, she said that to be a feminist, I don't feel like being a man. Do I feel like being that? I don't think so. On the contrary, to me it is meant an acceptance of my own womanhood as a positive thing, not as a lack. I don't lack in any way possible. I am just different, but I am not inferior. There are few novels that we'll be discussing in the course of the video. I'll tell you something related to the novel, we'll discuss the plot, and I'll tell you the characters or the protagonists that are important for you. So the first novel is The Dark Holds No Terror. In 1980, this was published. It is an award-winning novel. It revolves around the marital rape and it depicts the life and the inner conflict of a woman and called as Sarita. So Sarita is basically a doctor, a successful doctor, and she is now, because she is a successful doctor, a problem in her marital life starts to bloom, and her husband Manu, because of the male ego, destroys their own relationship. So the inner conflict of a woman who is considered responsible for her own sufferings is basically the plot. So Sarita is economically independent, but she is a middle class wife. So Sarita's husband Manu feels embarrassed when she is more successful. Male ego and the Indian tradition destroy life of Sarita. Sarita is considered conscious and is made conscious of her own gender and her early childhood. Then If I Die Today in 1982. This novel is her detective fiction or a detective novel. It is set in the campus of a hospital and a medical college Guru, a cancer patient, will make the life of the other people living there as hell. And there are two murders that are depicted here, and we will see the story that will unfold by the words of none other than Manju. Manju help us see this world of detective fiction. Then we have Roots and Shadows. So this novel that was published in 1983 will show the conflict between the traditional life and the modernity. The novel tries to answer some of the questions related to the individual's life, the life of isolation, the life of family, the social life, and the social tragedies. So we have these two generations, the women and strong characters from two generations who will have internal conflicts with one another. So the tale is about a house and a family. Indu, who is the protagonist of the novel, represents the modern life, the educated woman, the liberated woman, while she, on the contrary, on the other hand, we have Aka. She is someone who is a depiction of the old values. She is the old matriarch in the family. She represents the older generation. So we have Indu, who is modern, educated, liberated woman of the contemporary Indian middle class, while we have Aka, who represents the traditional lifehood. Come Up and Be Dead is another novel that is a detective fiction by Shashi Deshpande. This is set in a school of a girl, and this girl is her name is Kashama. She is the central character, and there will be about many mysterious deaths that will go on in the school, and she will encounter all of it, and she will depict all of this in the novel. Then we have That Long Silence in 1988, a very important novel, and it centers around the life of a woman again. So Jaya is the protagonist, and it is important. Jaya is the protagonist of the novel. She is a well-educated and a modern woman. She is a writer too. The book depicts the ruthless self-analysis of her life by the protagonist and the intellectual self-grappling that will happen. She wants to, just come forward and tell her own story. So this is an important novel that was published in 1988. And here I want you to correct it. This is 1985. Come Up and Be Dead. Then The Binding Vine. The Binding Vine was published in 1993. The Binding Vine has two incidents of rape. One is the marital rape, while the other is the rape of a young girl by one of her own relatives. The protagonist of the novel is a woman named Urmila, who is grieving over the death of her baby. Deshpande has raised many questions related to the feminine world and how their world is so, this world is so full of problems is the main theme of the novel. The narrator Urmila or Urmi is a clever and a sharp-tongued woman who discovers the poems written by Meera and her own mother-in-law. So Meera is trapped in a suffocating marriage, and she is an important character holding the different strands of the story together. This novel is based on a true incident. A young nurse was brutally raped in a hospital in which Shashi Deshpande and her husband used to work. Shashi Deshpande's husband used to work in Bombay. So he was the one who told her this story, and then she wrote it. So this story came out of a real life scenario, and the protagonist is Urmila, and Urmila, because she discovered the works of Meera, she will now shape her life according to the works she is reading. So she was reading the poems written by Meera, and now she will depict her life in this manner. She will live her life being inspired by the works. Then A Matter of Time in 1996 it was published. Unlike the other protagonist of Shashi Deshpande, this is the novel that has a male character in it that is at the center of the story. At the first time, she makes a male who is called as the Gopal as the protagonist of the novel. This novel basically talks about three generations of women that are depicted in the same family and how they were all abandoned, and at each level all of them face troubles. Sumi is going through mental trauma because she was abandoned by Gopal. After that, she takes up a job for herself and for her daughters. She then cope up with the tragedy with remarkable stoicism. With her zeal and enthusiasm, she now builds her own life according to herself. The society gives her the worst punishment, and we see the life of Sumi through the novel and how much she was rejected by her own family members. Then we have Small Remedies that came out in 2000. The novel narrates the tragic story of a famous singer, Savitri Bai. And this person, Savitri Bai is a very important person there. She is going to be interrogated because someone is writing her biography, and she is what? Madhu. Madhu is writing a biography of Savitri Bai, and they both will share their own experiences. So Madhu is writing the biography of Savitri Bai Indokar, and both Madhu and Savitri Bai experience the same suffering in the marriage. So both of them are victims of the same trouble from the same double standards of the society, and they will talk about their own experiences and they will share their own experiences. Then we have Moving On that was published in 2004. This is the latest novel of Shashi Deshpande, and it is about different families. It picturizes the moving life and the difficulties that you go through and the problems that are there. So Moving On is about Manjiri, and Manjiri also called as Gigi Anju, and there are some complex characters in the novel and how their life revolves around each other. The novel also portrays the life of other characters like Narayan, called as Baba, and his wife Vasu, Mai, who is also called as Mai. We have Malvika, and who is also called as Mallu. So, these are the few characters in the novel. Shashi Deshpande has also written some children's fiction, and these were basically the novels or the fictions she has written for the two sons she had. So, children's fiction, Shashi Deshpande has written 4 children's novels for the 2 young sons she has, and later on they were published. So, these are A Summer Adventure, 1986, The Hidden Treasure, 1980, The Only Witness, 1980, and The Narayanpur Incident in 1982. Then there are few short stories that are important as well. Now these are Deshpande's short story basically focuses on the various problems that women face, both in the personal front as well as in the social front. So in the personal level and at the social level. In the stories like A Man and a Woman, The Cruelty Game, and then the focus is the issue of divorce. So here the focus is divorce. Infidelity of the husband is the major problem of the women protagonists in the novels, in the short stories like Travel Plans, A Day Like Any Other, I Want. All of these deals with the problems of the marriage. Then abortion is the central problem that is discussed in the short story Death of a Child. Rape is the issue that is seen in the short story It Was Dark, and marital rape is the issue in the short story Intrusion. The Intrusion. It Was a Nightingale and A Wall Is Safe concentrates on the dilemma between one's career and one's marital life. That means this short story or these short stories will depict how important it is for a woman to have balance. If they lose balance, then people start to question her. So she needs to cope up with the career and how after marriage she needs to take care of the family. A liberated woman talks about the traditional mindset of the wife and what all cruelty she faces by the hands of her own husband. So these are few short stories that are important. These short stories like A Man and a Woman, The Cruelty Game, and then A Day Like Any Other, I Want. Then we have Death of a Child, It Was Dark, The Intrusion, It Was a Nightingale, A Wall is Safe, and then Safer, and A Liberated Woman. These are the few short stories that Shashi Deshpande is exceptionally famous for. Then there is one essay and for which she has been talked about, and this is Writing from the Margins. From this only I read the quote in the very beginning of the video. So there are also some of the essays that are written by Shashi Deshpande, and there is a book of these essays called as Writing from the Margins. This is her non-fiction writing. Her essay in this collection have universal appeal. The essays are written in the Indian context and tell about the social realities and everyday life of a woman. Right? So I hope you got enough information about Shashi Deshpande. There can be questions like match the following. You can be given names and then you have to match it with the works that are there, or it can be you need to choose few words or few works that are related to Shashi Deshpande. So it can be you need to pick up the novels that are written by Shashi Deshpande. This can be one way of asking the questions. Also, deeply, not much questions are asked from this writer, but you should at least know about the protagonist and at least know the publishing dates as well, because we all know nowadays chronological questions are asked, right? So I hope you understood what we were discussing in this novel. In this video, we discussed the Indian novelist Shashi Deshpande. I'll come up again with another set of novelists and we'll discuss about their works and their and how the questions can be asked in your paper. So thank you so much for looking at this video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much.